This room is far too beautiful for what I'm about to say. No, don't take for granted the significance of this gathering today. We are here in support of the only two anti-war and anti-genocide candidates with their own ballot line in all of New York State. That's a fact. And we are, of course, 10 days out from Election Day, which means that the candidates are making their closing arguments as the vote is set for November 5th. So genocide candidate number one, Donald Trump, was on the Joe Rogan Experience last night, making his closing pitch to the manosphere. And boy, did that go over big. Did you guys see that? Were you online last night? You saw that blew up. That was everywhere. That was more viral than the Kim Kardashian sex tape. And with bigger tits, better makeup, and longer stamina. 3 hours. Wow. Did you guys see the part where Rogan asked to see the scar on Trump's ear? That was hot, wasn't it? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think I should have to be the first person to say it, but, well, not that there's anything wrong with that, if you know what I mean. But genocide candidate number two, Kamala Harris, was in Houston with Beyonce last night. Anybody see that one? Very few people did. Trump on Rogan did much better. Much, much, much better. It was a much huger show. And she was making her pitch not to Joe Rogan's manosphere audience, but she was making her pitch to women voters with a big address on abortion. That's right. You know, Democrats, I have to say, between abortion and genocide, really leaning pretty hard into the baby killing this year, are they not? I mean, it's a little much. Don't get me wrong. Look, I'm pro-choice and all. But is there anything in the Democrats' platform that does not involve the mangling of defenseless children? I'd like to hear it. You don't get much information from Kamala nowadays. Did you read the new Thomas Friedman op-ed? He's really going ham on babies. It's called, "Hey, Snugglebug, suck on this." Now, of course, to be fair, Kamala's base of suburban women don't really see abortion in that light. They'd argue they're not just killing babies. We're not just killing babies. We think of it as we're checking their privilege. And Kamala isn't really pro-genocide. She just supports Israel's right to choose. Many feel that all Palestinian life is sacred, but Zionists are steadfast in their belief that life, in fact, begins at circumcision, and they therefore have the right to control their own Arab bodies. And Kamala supports them. She's so into genocide, in fact, that her husband toured the Rust Belt with Jose Vega's opponents just last week, holding events to reassure voters of Kamala's commitment to Israel. I see somebody with an RBN sweatshirt in the audience. Our friend Nick Cruz got a little pushback when he joked that Kamala married her AIPAC handler, but given the events of last week, it does appear he was onto something. And so when you look at Kamala's career trajectory, she got her first big break in politics when she dated Willie Brown. She ties the knot with Doug Emhoff, becomes senator and then vice president. And then she campaigns for the presidency on a platform of abortion and genocide. Her political career is one long game of fuck, marry, kill. Thank you. So while Trump is courting the incels and Kamala is rallying the girl bosses, our closing argument here is a peace rally. What do you know? Third parties are often dismissed as quixotic efforts, but our event here today is far more serious and meaningful than anything Trump or Harris will say over the next 10 days. Jose Vega, Diane Sayre, give me hope in hopeless times. I am so proud of them and so proud of all of you for your disciplined commitment to peace and justice and for being here today. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you very much.
It was in my contract I would have a milk crate to stand on. Having Sunday brunch at Sylvia's with Jose recently, as we munched on chicken and waffles surrounded by framed photos of several generations of Harlem luminaries, I raised the question that was really on my mind after a recent trip to Greece. Knowing the relentless humanism of Jose and the LaRouche movement and its admiration for classical civilization, I asked him how he reconciled that with the brutal forms of slavery practiced by the ancients. He proceeded to answer by quoting Plato from memory and at length. And I thought how odd it is that this guy from the South Bronx is one of the country's few existing products of a classical education. Not the neocon kind they talk about at Hillsdale, or the self-serving so-called anti-woke kind they teach at Zionist psychopath Barry Weiss's University of Austin, or whatever it is that Jordan Two-Face Peterson is hawking to his gullible and desperate online fan base, but the real kind, the kind that keeps AOC up nights reliving her many encounters with Jose as he plays the part of her lost principles. Long before the analysis of why civilizations fail became a cottage industry for both publishers and online creators, the 14th century Muslim scholar Ibn Khaldun ventured a guess in his classic history, the Muqaddimah. He hypothesized that more than wealth, more than land, more than the system of government, it was asabiya that determined the destiny of nations and empires. This can be roughly translated as unity of purpose. According to Khaldun, the thing that allows 300 warriors to hold a mountain pass against tens of thousands, or a coalition of nomadic Mongolian horsemen to conquer the civilized world, or a collection of inexperienced local militias to defeat the British Empire at the height of its power, is not rooted in material resources, tactical advantages, or social structure alone. If they were, we'd still be suffering under the cruel yoke of British cuisine. It is asabiya that makes all the difference. So if we ask why a nation that has achieved incredible things that seemed impossible at the time, finds itself so spiritually, intellectually, and morally bankrupt that it can no longer fix its roads and bridges, provide health care to its people, or stop its own client state from committing a genocide, if we ask how we became a place where a common prostitute like Richie Torres could even stand for office, much less win one, if we ask why we can't seem to do anything right anymore when we once conquered far greater challenges than we face today with far less resources, the answer, according to Ibn Khaldun, is that we have lost our asabiya. We have lost our sense of common purpose. And this, I think, is by design. We have been broken down and set against each other so thoroughly that there are many who are made reflexively uncomfortable by any characterization of the American experiment in any but the most negative terms. Some would say this relentless negativity is a necessary corrective to 2 centuries of cowboys and Indians and Song of the South distortions. Fair enough. But we drove past the balance exit on the revisionist history highway quite some time ago, and we're now well into a self-flagellation that hurts us all. Why? Why are we being encouraged to hate ourselves and each other? Who wants us to lose our sense of ourselves as one people? We should approach this mystery as detectives often do with a simple question. Qui bono? Who benefits? Well, if you've spent the past 50 years extracting wealth from the lower classes, and then when they ran out of cash, moving on to the middle classes, and with them going broke now too, Your insatiable greed is finally catching up to the upper middle class, so that pretty soon the circumstances are going to become downright medieval, with a cyber-landed gentry living off the rents and digital crop shares of the great mass of unwashed, toiling poors. There's only one thing you have to fear: the people finding common cause, asabia, or as the left calls it, solidarity. Jose and Diane are among the few activists I know who haven't walked into this trap of hating the country they are trying to represent, and who understand that we can never overcome the worst parts of our legacy without finding what is best in us: hope, optimism, idealism, inventiveness, charity, self-reliance, suspicion of elites, and a willingness to break with tradition in order to find that rarest of things, something new under the sun. If we are going to redeem the ugliest parts of our history, if we are going to make all the senseless pain we have inflicted on one another and on ourselves mean anything, it will be as Americans creating a new world with American features. In order to get there, we need a new kind of leader that can reconcile us with our past and use its lessons to create a better, fairer, more equitable, humane, and prosperous future in which we live in peace with all people, and finally, at long last, with ourselves. Jose and Diane are those kinds of leaders, and that's why we need to do all we can to elevate their voices in this race and in the years to come.